Hi again. To many people, this video will be stating the obvious, but I have run across people that did not know this thing that many of us call obvious about marriage and family. Marriage and family does not start with a father and mother, it starts with a child. Every single person in this entire world was at one point a child. We're all grown up children, all of us. Not all of us are fathers and mothers, but all of us are grown up children, every single one of us. So it's a pretty obvious thing that every single person in this world was affected by their childhood, by the fact of whether they had two parents or one, whether they had a father or a mother or both. Generally, children that were loved by their parents, that were loved by both a father and a mother, grew up being secure and feeling safe in a household where they were loved. The best thing for any child, if you talk to any child psychologist or anybody who has studied up, anyone will tell you that a stable family life is the most important thing for any child. And we're all children. We're all grown up children. So every one of us has been affected either positively or negatively by the way we were brought up and by our circumstances, which are not your fault, obviously. Some children were brought up in a broken family. The parents divorced early, and the children were tossed to and fro between two families, perhaps. The mother and the father may have been remarried, and the child didn't feel like he ever had a home. Um, there's times where a mother got pregnant and then she was off with another man and she got pregnant with another man's child. And the child had to bear consequences as a result of that. There are times when a father got a woman pregnant and then that father went off with another woman and the child ended up not having a regular family situation. And this all makes one thing perfectly clear. This is something that if you think about it, you cannot argue this point. Marriage starts at consummation. The reason for this is children. Children, all of us are children. And the most important thing in this world is how a child is brought up, the way a child grows up. That will affect what they are when they're an adult. When a marriage is finalized, consummated, the word consummate means finalized. So when a marriage is consummated, that brings about the possibility of pregnancy, of a child being born. And of course, as soon as there's a chance of a child being born, there should be stability for that child to be brought up in. So there should be a father and a mother, a man and a woman who are committed to that child. So there are obviously there's many different kinds of sex acts that can be done in this world, and the only one that consummates a marriage is the one that will cause the possibility of a child. That is how a marriage is finalized, is by consummation. Consummation means there's a chance of a child. Consummation, that particular act, that particular sex act finalizes marriage. You can get a marriage certificate, you can get a church to acknowledge a marriage, you can have all your family acknowledge a marriage, but there's no marriage until a consummation happens. And when a consummation happens, there is marriage. Whether the person acknowledges it or not, whether the family acknowledges it or not, whether the government acknowledges it or not, and whether the church acknowledges it or not, because of the child, because of the possibility of a child. We're all, once again, we're all children. All of us are grown-up children in this world. All of us, without exception. So the natural flow of life in this world is for two people, a man and a woman, to consummate their marriage after being committed to each other, having a commitment to each other, consummating or finalizing marriage, and children coming about as a result. Anything other than this flow is unnatural. It's just plain unnatural because it means that either there was a child outside of this situation, a child was brought into being outside of a situation of two loving parents, or that a child was artificially brought about. So any child being born without a father and mother, they're present to bring up that child without a father and mother committed to that child is at a disadvantage, and it's not the child's fault. Obviously, it's not the child's fault. When a child is brought up in a family that is in hardship and is in financial need, that's not the child's fault either. That child deserves an equal right at becoming successful as any other child who's brought up in a rich family. So the natural flow of things says that every child deserves to have two parents that love that child, because you're a child. Whoever I'm talking to right now, you are a grown-up child, or else you're still a child. Um, Everyone is a child who has grown up through some circumstance or another, and every life starts as a child, as a baby, with parents that either love that child or don't, who either take care of that child or don't, who either neglect that child or don't. And every child deserves to be loved and taken care of, because every life is precious. So when husbands or wives cheat on their spouse, they're causing damage to the children. That's who they're causing damage to. Even if they can get through their own broken situation in their own life, okay, yeah, you could. But what about the children? Are there children involved? Think about the children. It's the children whose lives get affected by broken homes. When people sleep around and they don't even know who the father was of a child. And when a mother has a child and she doesn't know who the father is, that's just a terrible situation to be in. And it's not the child's fault. It's not the child's fault. If you take a step back, even one step further back, you could take a step back to the fact that abortion, that child was not, it's not the child's fault what circumstances they're being born into. It's not the child's fault. Getting an abortion is taking the life of a child, because everyone was a fetus at one point. Every human being in this world was a fetus at one point. And to kill a fetus is to kill a human life, because every human life was a fetus. So you're taking away the opportunity of a child in this world when you have an abortion. You're taking the life away. It doesn't matter what circumstance that child was brought into being. That's not the child's fault. That's the fault of the adults in the situation, the people who are not considering the results of what they were doing. So every child deserves to have a father and mother who love them, a man and a woman who are both examples to that child. An example of a man, an example of a woman, an example of a responsible man, and an example of a responsible woman. That's what every child deserves, is not only responsible parents, but parents who love them, who want what's best for them. So I know this was an unusual video, but the fact that this is not common sense anymore, what I've just said, doesn't seem to be common sense in many circles. And this needs to become common sense again, because the entire country, all countries, all nations are built around the strength of their families. The world is built around the strength of families. Families are the basis of life on this world. This world is populated by families, and every single family is made up of children, either children who grew up or children who are still children. So children are the most important aspect and the basis of life in this world. And we need to consider the children. That is what marriage and family is about. It's about children. It's about the lives of those children. They're getting the benefit of being able to live a life of being loved and cared for, and having an opportunity in their life to do whatever it is that child has a gift for, has a knack for, and finding what that is too. So thanks for watching.